The following content is intended for mature audiences. This material is created for the usage of harm reduction and drug education. I am not condoning the consumption of any illegal psychoactive substances.
The saying "nothing comes from nothing" can be pretty much applied to what we'll be discussing today. Mushrooms are very unique and they come in different shapes and sizes. There's some that are very helpful to the environment by giving life more life. These are called decomposers. There's some that are toxic not only to humans but to other organisms and plant lives, which are called predators or parasites. The ones that we'll be covering today are the decomposers, specifically the magic mushrooms. There are many species out there of shrooms that exist, but of all those that do exist, there are 200 types of hallucinogenic mushrooms. For the rest of the video, I will be referring to these mushrooms as psilocybin mushrooms. Psilocybin, or 4-phosphoryloxy-dimethyltryptamine, has been around for thousands of years. It was first commercialized by a chemist by the name of Albert Hofmann, who extracted the psychoactive chemical compound from a specific strand called Psilocybin mexicana. And fun fact, this chemist, Albert Hofmann, was the first person who actually invented LSD through a very similar process by extracting that chemical compound from a mushroom strand and manipulated it to turn it into what we know as LSD. A year later, 1960, the company that this chemist was working for patented this particular compound and started to market it as psilocybin, selling it to mental health providers who were using it for psychotherapy at the time. But during this time though, the US was cracking down on drugs that are categorized as hallucinogenic substances. And it was discovered that this substance fits under this particular categories, which led legislators to ban this drug and label it as a Schedule I substance. The banning of the drug wasn't a result from a scientific-based standpoint because the clinicians that were actually administering these substances coupled with therapy reported it to be safe and therapeutic as well. In the 21st century, psilocybin has made a comeback, like other psychoactive substances that have been banned for many years, to kind of explore its therapeutic properties. Based on the several experiences people have had, it's definitely produced positive results under the supervision of folks that know what they're doing, whether in a clinical or ceremonial setting. For those with substance use disorder, depression, anxiety, end-of-life psych distress, especially with patients with cancer, and bipolar disorder. Psilocybin is a prodrug of psilocin. This means that when you ingest psilocybin mushrooms and the liver metabolizes it, it changes into the active mind-altering form, which is called psilocin. Now, another prodrug is heroin. When heroin is consumed and is metabolized, it changes into the form of morphine. So now we can say heroin is the prodrug of morphine. Psilocybin is taken by mouth, so it can be broken down by the liver in order to be active. Because if we don't have the active form of psilocybin, which is psilocin, it has zero effects. Now, its presentation is usually in a whole form, like a whole mushroom. People tend to dry it up in order for it to have a longer shelf life. And sometimes you see folks grinding it up to where it's very fine and put them in capsules. Now, psilocybin mushrooms are uppers. Scientists aren't really 100% sure of all the receptors psilocin binds to, but because of its nearly identical chemical makeup to serotonin, psilocybin binds to serotonin receptors, producing effects of happiness, euphoria, and insightful experiences. It's all said from the time you ingest it to where you feel a change in your senses is usually 20 to 40 minutes. Now, some people have reported to feel effects an hour to even 2 hours later. The time when these senses start to become like at their optimal level is usually 3 to 4 hours from the time you ingested the mushrooms. Duration has on average been recorded to last about 6 hours. The most common dose when it comes to ingesting mushrooms dried is usually 3.5 grams. Now, some folks start off with smaller doses to see how it affects them on a smaller scale, and they eventually work their way up. Starting with this small dose is called microdosing, and working your way up is called up titration. Now, when these effects arise in a healthy human being, they aren't usually deadly. You may experience pupil dilation, increased heart rate, blood pressure, and temperature, lack of coordination, and nausea. Although psilocybin is one of the safest mind-altering substances you can have, there are some safety measures you can take. Be aware of any pre-existing health conditions because they can cause serious complications. Heart issues, you can potentially have a heart attack. Kidney issues, you won't be able to excrete this substance out of your system, which can cause toxicity. And liver issue, you will not be able to break down the substance properly. Know exactly the type of mushrooms you're consuming, as well as the dose. So by doing this, you can scale however much you're ingesting and record it so you can be aware. Have people around that you trust that'll keep you safe. Thank you for watching, and please be safe.